ice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance.
Good morning, Matt, and good morning, listeners. Welcome to a special edition,
bonus,
bulletin, bonus, extra. Read all about it. New Unearthed Arcana. Matt, Feats.
One that's actually good.
Yes,
Feats.
After months
Show
of
us some feet.
Extremely boring subclasses. No offense if you liked them, they sucked. We have an actually sort of interesting Unearthed Arcana. Yes, Wizards has released, how many are there? Like 12-ish new feats, something like that, somewhere in that vicinity.
I don't think I counted, but yeah, there's a lot. There's like 5 different types of feats. They're stealing a little bit from other systems design, and
Yes, they are. We love to see it.
First, I want to ask you, Rob, like, what is it about feet with some people? It's not my thing, but, you know, there's
Some
whole
people
wikis devoted
just really
to
love a feat. They just like really
Yeah.
get excited about seeing a new feat, maybe even
A new option.
a pair of feats that could be chosen between.
Wiggle your big toe.
It's just some people love feat.
Whether it's half of a feat,
Or a full feat, a fresh feat or an old feat. Some people are just really
closed toe, open toe. It can be used for any type of character. All right, we love feet here at Dungeon Master None. Let's get into these. Do you want to go in order? I think it might be helpful to go in order of categories, because at least in my
you've grouped these
Dungeon Master opinion, there are some groupings.
No, you've grouped these, and I agree with your grouping. So let's do these by type.
Let's start with the most poorly named feats, the ones I would call the weapon feats.
Yes.
So these are Crusher, Piercer, and Slasher, things I just don't want to write on my character sheet just because of the name.
These are good names for the members of your rollerball team. These are not good names for feats. But
You're going down in the final match permanently.
They tell you, I guess.
Why is this a sport? This seems not safe at all. They don't even know about CTE, and it's not safe.
These describe what they are, but they don't really tell you. I would not like to write this on.
Like slashing weapon master would be
I know.
More of a mouthful, but better than slasher.
I mean, like Blade Master and, I don't know.
Blade Master.
Heavy weapon guy. Literally anything would be better than like Crusher
better.
and Slasher. But, it's also
lazy
funny.
shit.
It's also funny because, again, Crusher sounds like something that you would like get as a nickname if you were like a 400-pound offensive lineman in college or something, but like it's actually the most tactical of these feats, and I kind of love it. So let's talk about what these three are.
So all 3 of these are half feats. You can get a boost to strength or dexterity. They only apply to a specific type of weapon, and they both have an effect that can happen once per turn and when you score a critical hit. Right? We've talked about them before. Things that add a bonus when you do a critical hit in 5e are, for the most part, there's really no way to get critical hits consistently. So it's not
they
bad,
kind of suck.
But
this actually, here's a hot take, a spicy take. I think these actually like boost the value of the champion fighter, the most boring and least just like. I don't even, I think numerically it's probably pretty good, but I don't know why you would ever pick it unless you couldn't think of anything else. But it's one of the few ways to get an increased critical hit chance, and I think having these feats actually makes that a little bit more valuable.
Yeah. So Crusher, as Rob has pointed out, is the most tactical feat because once per turn you can move a creature that is not too much bigger than you 5 feet. So you can, push them back, move them into a flanking position if you use those optional rules, something like that.
And those of us who have played in other editions are familiar with this type of, tactical movement, but this is extremely...
4th edition especially.
Extremely rare in 5th edition, if it exists at all, I think.
There are cantrips and first-level spells that do this for days.
That can do this, but...
imagine being able to push someone back with your weapon.
I know.
I don't think that's a thing a weapon can
no,
do.
you can't do that.
That should be reserved for magic.
No, and again, I'm going to not go too far into this, but I like this. This is so much fun. This is what I love about playing a martial class, is feeling like, you are doing tactics or affecting the battlefield. And 5th edition scaled that way back. And yes, you used to sometimes have to do some serious system mastery and feat investment in 3.5, especially to get there. But you used to be able to do some really cool battlefield management, zone of control stuff. And I thought that was a lot of fun from like a tactical combat standpoint. So I'm a big fan of Crusher. I will tell you, I'm cranky that it came 5 years into the life of 5th edition. I don't know why they were sitting on this shit for so long.
Very simple to add this to the game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, not to get too distracted from the feats on hand, but we have to remember that feats were sort of an integral part of one of the iterations of the D&D Next playtest, and then they removed them entirely, and then they made them part of what they are now, which is kind of optional side rules.
Still specifically
that don't really work with the rest of the game.
Rule, which is just bonkers. I guess we should talk about feats in general at the end, because I have some thoughts.
Okay, all right. I'll save the rest till the end.
No. So sorry. Let's quickly cover like what the rest of them are.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Sorry. What the thing that Crusher gives you for a critical hit is you get advantage against that creature until the end of your next turn. Again, this is very tactical. Everyone. Yeah.
Everyone.
Oh, everyone does.
That's very cool. It's probably my favorite of these.
Incredibly tactical. I can already see myself making, like, honestly, I would make like a staff master that does this, right? Like somebody who fights with with a quarterstaff and controls the battlefield. This is super cool. And then there's Piercer,
which is a raw damage buff on your once per turn option. And again, another raw damage buff on your
raw.
So
you
this
like
one
raw, yeah.
This one sucks.
This one's very boring. It is a lot of damage. It's obvious. Like, this is really, really good if you are just a flat archer that wants to do as much damage as humanly possible. Which is cool. Kind of boring, though.
It is very boring. Slasher, the once per turn benefit lets you reduce a creature's movement speed, which sounds cool, but I have the feeling will be much, much less useful than being able to push a target around.
This already exists in the form of, what's that cantrip?
Ray of Frost, Rob.
Which nobody ever uses, and it never comes in handy.
use Ray of Frost.
I don't think I've ever used the reduced movement part of it, I guess. It's like, even after the hit, I don't think it's ever made a difference. But it's cool in theory.
In theory, it's cool. Same with this one. The critical hit bonus is basically you can give a target disadvantage when you crit it, which is great. That's fine.
Good. Yeah.
Now, the question I want to ask about these 3 weapon feats. On the one hand, they distinguish between the weapon damage types, which, I've heard people complain, well, what's the difference between a longsword and a battle axe or whatever? And the answer is really none, right? What's the difference between a rapier and a short sword or whatever? None. But at the same time, if you're like, man, I want to play a tactical fighter, but I want to use a spear or, a longsword, well, you're better off using a staff, a club, or I guess there's not mauls in the game anymore. But do you think it's good to differentiate the damage types, or do you think it's restricting that you're forcing players to pick a weapon based on this feat?
I think it's good. And I've always felt this way. I like to build interesting tactical martial characters with, who are dedicated to a certain type or class of weapon. And one thing that always bothered me about 5th edition is that it didn't really seem to matter what you were using, which is a minor complaint. But I think that this allows for a little bit more build diversity. The problem with previous editions and with this sort of thing in general is when one option becomes clearly optimal, and then you get a bunch of power gamers choosing it, which I think people overreact to. I think both designers and players put too much emphasis on what a small minority of power gamers are doing, and then they're like, whoa, we can't have these cool options because some people are going to show up to the Adventurers League table and ruin everyone else's fun. I think as long as you're not like obviously breaking the game, it is good to allow people to specialize. Specialization in terms of game mechanics is a boon and a companion to character creation and character play, not an inhibitor, in my opinion. This is what's this called? Stone Something's Paradox, or you know what I'm talking about? Never mind.
Not at all, Rob. I have no idea. The
Hang
stone
on.
paradox makes a lot of sense to me. Stones are really weird. But I will add some nuance to this point. I completely agree with you, right? Game designers find like one thing that's like, you know, slightly better that everyone on like some forum talks about. But Rob, there are things that are like so optimal that everyone recognizes them, which is like the fact that feats are in general for 90% of characters not useful at all in the time most people play the game from 1st through 10th level. There is, except for 1 or 2 specific character things, there's no reason why you should ever take a feat before 8th level. There's no reason why you should ever take a feat that's not a half feat before 12th level, because you need to have a 20 in at least one ability score for every character class in the game. There's no reason not to have it because it's just so helpful.
I would disagree that you have to, but I understand what you're saying.
No, you don't have to, but like obviously it makes your character better in every way.
No. There's not really, it's very hard to see the benefit in choosing a feat over 2 ability score points. Like the ability score improvement feels more rewarding almost every time, right? And so unless you have a very, very good reason or are deliberately choosing a less mechanically useful option. No, the thing is, I don't think there's any problem. I don't think there's like as much of a problem with making things that are too good, as long as you are not breaking the game. But there is definitely a problem with making things that suck and are trap options. And many feats, if not most, are kind of trap options. They're not good.
Charger, grappler, weapon master. We're looking at you.
Some of the original feats are real trash.
But at the same time, some of them are really incredibly good. Great weapon master, sharpshooter, lucky.
Magic Initiate still really good. Lucky is still really good, but most feats are trash.
Okay, speaking of Magic Initiative, I think the next type of feat that makes up the biggest chunk of this class are the multi-class feats. Feats that give you a little bit of options from another class. There's one for Artificer, one for Warlock, one for the Sorcerer, one for kind of the fighter but more fighting styles, and one for the Ranger. That's Tracker. So what do you think of these overall?
I think these are great in general, and we can talk about
these are my favorite ones.
We can talk about the specifics. Artificer Initiate is just flat, good fun. I don't see any way to like break this. I mean,
this is just the Magic Initiate feat, just updated for the release of the Artificer class because it's not included in Magic. I mean, this could just be a errata to Magic Initiate, but yeah, it's fine.
Eldritch Adept is great. It's actually, I'm a big fan of this. I can see a lot of like this is, I haven't like dug into it, but I can't see any way to like abuse this, and it's just like a fun way to pick up an invocation. It's cool.
It's only 1st level invocations, and you have to already be a spellcaster.
Yeah.
So you can't be like a non-Eldritch Knight fighter and pick up detect magic at will. Invocations can be very powerful, like, detect magic at will, disguise self at will
I can
is another
see
1st level one.
Somebody finding a way to break this, but in general, I think this is a cool like flavor thing that you could add to your spellcaster. And yeah, I think there's a lot of like fun variability here.
I think this was one of the better design ones, because invocations are very powerful. They've gated it behind you have to be some kind of spellcaster, and it's only 1st level warlock invocations, which that's perfectly good there.
Many of them are good, and it is worth doing. It's not going to break the game.
One I skipped bringing up is Meta Magic Adept. Adept. I want to talk about that one maybe the most.
I do too. So let's get through the other. Fighting style is fine. Fighting Initiate's fine. I'm not sure why you would pick this up. None of the fighting styles are hugely impactful.
Except for maybe Defender, the one where you can use your reaction. Lots of classes don't have anything to do with their reaction, so...
It's also hard to pick up attack bonus anywhere, so maybe, again, if you were really committed to being an archer, you might pick up archery style, but...
Speaking of that champion, you could now be a champion and have 3 fighting styles.
Yeah. Again,
Finally, the dream.
Don't know why you would, but yeah, it's fine. It's a good option. I don't think it's like.
The thing is, the fighter already has a multi-class feat and the thing that lets you pick up a single battle master maneuver.
Right.
But, this one is, for me, really great in that there are certain classes that never get fighting style, rogue, or cleric.
Yep.
And for me to express my character, maybe I really want to be a cleric that's like, I was trained in a war god's college and my shield is on the front line and I'm defending my party with it.
I still might not pick this up until 8th level, but especially if I were a sneaky ranged rogue.
Maybe if you're a human.
Yeah. If I were a ranged rogue, or a Tempest cleric or something like that, I would definitely pick up fighting style to distinguish myself.
The last one is Tracker,
which is the core ranger. Congratulations. Nobody has to play a ranger ever again because you learn Hunter's Mark and you have advantage to track creatures. No, I mean, this is... I'm being tongue-in-cheek, but also not really. Hunter's Mark is kind of the best thing about a low-level ranger, and this is, it's strong. It's not, like, broken, but yeah.
Here's the thing. This is, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Tracker feat, and in a similar light in a second, I think we'll discover there's not anything wrong with the Metamagic Adept feat. Why people might be like, ooh, wow, no reason to be a ranger or a sorcerer now. I think this is just a problem with the ranger and sorcerer class.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of Metamagic Adept, this is my favorite. And
finally, my rogue, what's it called? Rogue Arcane Initiate can cast silent spells. Yes.
So one of my major complaints about 5th edition has been that Metamagic is suddenly only a sorcerer thing that you can do, and I have homebrewed about 1,000 things to do this. To like undo this, and I don't understand it because I think metamagic, when it comes to spell casting, is one of the most like fun and interesting things that you can do, and I cannot figure out why you would limit it to only sorcerers. It is so cool to be able to modify your spells. It makes you feel like rather than choosing from a list, you are actually like doing magic. I don't know. I'm a big fan of this.
The reason why is they couldn't think of any other unique core mechanic for the sorcerer.
Probably. Yeah. So in case it's not clear, you learn 2 metamagic options. You can use them. You get some sorcery points. It seems a little bit limited. You don't get very many sorcery points, but it's still cool. It's still great.
Actually, and I really like this feat because I think one of the classes that will take this feat the most is in fact the sorcerer.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be absolute god at metamagic, at early levels, your number of choices of metamagic is very, very low, and you will always use up all your metamagic points. Yeah. Probably. So, I mean, I think I would love to play a sorcerer that just...
good choice for sorcerers, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love metamagic. Again, I think Vancian casting is not my favorite. It never has been. And one of the things that makes it just a teensy bit more interesting, I think, is metamagic. And I think one of the great flaws for casters of 5th edition is that it is just a sorcerer ability. So I am a fan of this. This is real good. Long overdue, in my opinion.
Really, I just want to be able to make my spells silent when I'm playing my sneaky magic rogue.
Yeah.
I mean, this one's pretty rough to get. I mean, all of these, I think, none of these are half feats except for the tracker. So it's really a pretty big sink into your shit to get these. So.
Yeah.
poor ranger, even the tracker one is a half feat. So
Yep.
Let's talk about maybe the tactical feats, which is a broader grouping of feats. So there's a gunner feat, which gives you firearm proficiency. It's a half feat. You can fire at creatures within 5 feet without disadvantage. Ignore the loading property of firearms. There is the shield training feat, which is, again, a half feat proficiency with shields, a free action to doff or don a shield, and you can use a shield as a spell casting focus. And then there's the Tandem Tactician, which lets you use help as a bonus action and help allies within 10 feet, and you can help 2 allies at once that are doing the same thing or attacking the same target.
Yeah, these, I think, are also great. I, frankly, have ignored the firearms rules at every point. So A gunner, I assume, probably solves some problems with actually using firearms, but so that's good.
It's the same thing that we had with crossbow expert or something, whatever it was called.
That's right.
Ignore the loading property.
That's right.
If you want to make a gunslinger now, you can.
Yeah.
And if you're playing in a campaign where the dungeon master is already giving everyone or most characters firearm proficiency, the proficiency bonus is not the other things in the feat are enough.
Like, if you're even like a vaguely competent DM and you had a player that wanted to use firearms, you already probably homebrewed this because it's quite obvious how you would fix firearms. But, I guess it's good that it is now printed and will maybe end up in a official book so you could use it in Adventures League or stop arguing with your DM or something. I don't know. This does matter, but also, like, this is a problem that didn't need to exist because you could easily fix it with a homebrew, which you shouldn't have to do, but,
And if you're one of those people being like, how can you load a firearm as part of an attack action? Let me just remind you that you can't do that with a crossbow either. They take minutes to load. Same as firearms. We're in a world where magic exists. We imagine people have used magic spells and supernatural techniques to design more advanced versions of Renaissance era firearms and crossbows.
Just use your imagination. I like shield training a lot because it is a way for people to pick up shields without dipping, and you can use your shield as a spellcasting focus. You can doff or don it as a free action. This is great. This doesn't break anything, but it allows for people to do things that they wanted to do for fun without having to bend themselves into a pretzel over the rules. It's
the name, I think, is a little deceptive in that if you're like a fighter, barbarian, even really a cleric type, you might be better off going for something like Shield Master from the original rules, because there's nothing really in combat you can do. This is a shields for spellcaster feat,
this is good for maybe like a College of Swords bard or a muscle wizard or a dragon sorcerer that wants to do like some like up close combat. This is not something you would pick up. This is shields for casters basically, which is good, which is valuable.
There's also Tandem Tactician, which is again expanding the help action. It's basically a similar effect to what the Mastermind Rogue gets.
It basically steals the Mastermind Rogue's like main thing, and I think we have to acknowledge
the range is much less, right? That is the main difference. It is 10 feet versus 30 feet for the Mastermind Rogue.
I guess that's true. Still, one, I think that it stacks and with the Mastermind Rogue if you really, really want to invest in this. And two, I think we have to admit
you could use it at 40 feet.
I think we have to admit that nobody plays the Mastermind Rogue, so it's probably not a big deal.
It's given me some ideas for other things to do for our Warlord class. Same with, honestly, the Slasher, Crusher, and Piercer feats. Feel like I needed permission to add these types
that's the thing. If you've been listening to our own homebrew, we have been very careful about how to not overstep, right? What Wizards has already like set as a baseline. And so we were very careful when clearly we didn't need to be, or didn't need to be as careful.
The true triumph of a lot of these feats, the Crusher, Piercer, Slasher feats, the Tandem Tactician feats, is that they've added things that are not overpowered, that you can still do every turn, and don't rely on something like having a pool of dice or points. There's nothing wrong with those things, but you can add interesting things to the game without adding some new pool for your players to keep track of.
The last grouping of feats are tool feats, and these are Chef, Poisoner, and Practiced Expert.
I think Chef is the clear everyone's favorite here. It's my favorite.
This is my favorite. You can finally be a treat boy. You can make you can make a number of treats equal to your proficiency bonus, and you can hand them out. It's great. I feel bad. I had a player who played like an actual chef in my Eberron campaign, and he's going to be so mad when he sees this perfectly written feat for the thing that he was trying to replicate with, spells and, good descriptions.
Absolutely. It's a better healing on short rests, and a number of temporary hit points for your party, right? Or for a small number of people in your party, right? That will, because they have no expiration date, last the rest of the day. And here's the main point, I think, about feats, right? People want ways to mechanically express what their characters are good at, right? You can have tool proficiency cooking shit on your character,
Right.
but until, the dungeon master is asking you to make cooking checks, which is probably not going to come up in most campaigns, there's nothing that in the game rules makes you feel rewarded for describing how good of a chef your character is. Here's something that rewards you for that. It's great.
It's great. The next one is Poisoner, which lets you ignore resistance to poison damage, which is pretty good. Code a weapon and poison as a bonus action. And then basically create a 2d8 poison. I like the firearms rules. I have ignored the poison rules, which in every edition of D&D are weirdly needlessly complicated. I think just as like a legacy, it always involves some like risk to poison yourself or some check or something, and I'm like, why is this so complicated?
Maybe not in 5th edition.
Is it not in 5th edition anymore?
In other editions, yeah.
I was reading
They're
this.
also in the DMG, right? So
Yeah,
it's
they
very
are.
inaccessible to players.
I was just reading this and I was like, is this something you can't already do? I don't know. Anyway, so that's on me for not knowing the poison rules. But if you are an assassin or a somebody who likes to use poison, this is kind of, I would say this is only a problem because it's kind of a must-have if you ever want to use poison, which makes me think it should maybe be easier to get or be included in some other package. I don't know.
Well, I guess the idea is if you're not having this feat, you can still set your weapon up before a fight. This is adding poison in the middle of the fight. But yeah, I guess this is maybe my least favorite of these just because it requires another roll on the Dungeon Master's part to make a Constitution save. Mm-hmm. The save never changes, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't make the save a variable save that increases with your proficiency bonus.
You can get this at level 1,
the fuck?
And it's very strong, but if you pick it up at level 8, it's probably not very strong.
Because feats are such a big investment, they should be useful forever, right?
And the last one is Practice Expert, and this one's nice. It's just an ability score. It's a half feat plus proficiency in a skill or tool, and then
plus expertise in a skill or tool,
which is really nice.
If I remember back in the Xanathar's Guide to Everything, there was something that did almost exactly this, but was restricted to humans only. So
yeah,
humans get a huge buff because they're the only ones, rules is written, who can take a feat at first level. Mm-hmm. But it's also the same thing humans get.
Yeah.
Sorry, humans.
Sorry, yeah.
Should have had pointy ears.
So, yeah.
Last but not least, Fey and Shadow Touched.
These are good. These are both half feats that give you a spell and a cantrip, right? Or no, let's see. Fey Touch gives you Misty Step, which is pretty cool.
Right. And one first level spell. Shadow Touch gives you Darkness and one other first level spell. They have to come from specific schools, Divination or Enchantment for the Fey, Illusion or Necromancy for the Shadowfell one. Yeah, these are super cool for being a weird supernatural weirdo.
These are all spells that are once per long rest, so not dramatic, but you get a ability score point and a free spell, and it's nice. These are
if you want to be a barbarian who was kidnapped to the Feywild as a child, or a darkness touched rogue from the shadows, you can.
You finally can be without much character investment. So let's talk briefly about feats. So you pointed out to me,
and Alex Klippinger pointed out to me,
and there's some issues with this data, but the most popular classes are the ones that get additional like feats or ability score improvements. And I think that it is safe to say that people like to be able to diversify their characters, and that feats are a good way to do that. People like getting feats.
Right. The top, I think it's 4 of the top 5 classes, according to some sketchy data from D&D Beyond, are Barbarian, Rogue, Fighter, and Warlock. 3 of those get extra ability score improvements, aka feats, and the Warlock just has infinite customization.
Yeah.
People like customizing their characters. A big critique that we have gone over many times of 5th edition is that every Eldritch Knight fighter is similar. Every dragon-blooded sorcerer is pretty much the same.
You have to, the thing is, it's not that you can't, but it is working against the system to distinguish your character, right? It is hard. It requires effort and intention to make a unique character. Other systems, you basically just fall ass backwards into it, which is what you should do, right? You should come up with an idea and then, create a character and it should be distinct. But if you just sit down and create a champion fighter in 5th edition, it's going to look a lot like your friend's champion fighter unless you've put effort into making it not so.
And some people are going to be like, Oberyn Martell's a human fighter, and so is Han Solo or something like that. They're completely different characters, right? There's more to, building an interesting character than just mechanics. And yeah, you're absolutely right. But you know what helps people build unique and interesting characters is more interesting mechanics.
Well, and also that's true, but Han Solo and Oberyn Martell in combat, which is at worst 50% of most D&D games, are going to spend a lot of time rolling the same attack bonus and the same D8 damage die. You can describe it differently, but mechanically, without something like a feat or, distinct character options to distinguish them, fundamentally they will be doing the same thing. And again, I agree there are ways around this, and this is a diminishment of how it works, but there are ways to make mechanics should work, with the game, right? We've talked about this a lot, and the mechanics of 5th edition do not allow for a lot of character diversity, and feats help.
They do help. I suppose Han Solo's probably a rogue, but you get our point.
Yeah. Han Solo's a bit like Batman. You can build him any way you like.
That's exactly right. I think overall, right, this is a great addition to the feat system, and maybe as much as you can do to save it without fundamentally changing the broken part of the feat system, which is that no one can really take them till 8th or 12th level unless you're a human or a certain type of fighter or something like that. So I'll again plug my half feat rules, which solve a lot of the problems.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah, you're going to plug them.
Oh, well, that's it. I've plugged them.
Yeah, take a look at those. We'll put them in the show notes. I also think that there's a strong argument at this point to be made to going back to giving everyone a first level feat. I think that if Wizards did that, it would not be bad. I think that would probably be okay for everybody. But that would require them to acknowledge that their ideas were bad and they made a mistake. And I don't think they're going to do that. So unless you're a variant human, you don't get to do any of these until 4th level, and that's just kind of sucks. Just kind of sucks.
Yeah. I don't think. I mean, there is, I think, a very small chance that whenever Wizards releases its next player's handbook book,
5.5
or another version, I think it's going to be another like Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which was our player's handbook 2 in a way. That it could include, right, things like alternate class features or alternate character building rules. I think that's unlikely, but if it does, that would be, I think, the best thing Wizards could do to keep players who are interested in having fun and unique mechanics for their characters around in their game.
So, I hope this was helpful. Sorry we were a little late. Lots been going on. Feats. Check out the half feat rules. Let us know what you think of what homebrewing you've done. If you've got any cool feats, we'll definitely share them. Yeah.
Send us your feats.
Yeah, send us your feats. Send us feat pics, please.
Feat pics, please.
All right, everybody. Have a good week. And keep rolling them dice.
I can't remember ever feeling this bad under 15 feet of pure white snow. Where's my nurse? I need some healing. I've been paralyzed by this lack of feeling. I can't even find anything worth stealing under 50 feet.